Good morning, folks. This is Mark Davis with Carolina Outdoor Adventures TV, and we got co-host Shane Cannon. How you been doing, bud?
Doing good. How about yourself, Mark?
I've been doing fine. We got a real treat for y'all here today, folks, because this man right here is the man with the plan. He is a expert deer hunter. He is very knowledgeable in his field, and we'll be going over some different topics today that I think y'all find really interesting. We're up here in the western part of North Carolina. It's Yancey County, which is Burnsville, North Carolina. And we're going to be going over some different topics for y'all here today, folks, that I really think y'all find really interesting and informative. So if y'all stay tuned, we're going to take a short commercial break and we'll be right back.
This week's Carolina Outdoor Adventures TV is brought to you by AAA Outdoors Sweet and Salty Deer Attractants, Buckbuster Scents, scents for the serious hunter, and also by Quail Hollow Bird Farm.
Let us make this absolutely clear. The days of wasted casts and missed opportunities are over. New Mega Imaging takes fishing into the megahertz range for the first time, because higher frequency sonar means higher frequency of this. Without a doubt, it's the most detailed picture of the world below ever. And it's only from Humminbird.
How y'all folks doing today? This is Mark Davis with Carolina Outdoor Adventures, and we got to welcome back Shane Cannon here. He took the summer off. And how you been doing?
Well, I've been doing pretty good. Been trying to get a little fishing in and getting ready for deer season.
I know that's right. I'm pretty excited myself. Archery opens up September 8th, and that's statewide for North Carolina. And what's some of the preparations that you take into get ready for it?
Well, we've just been doing a lot of scouting, looking for good acorns and any kind of feed or bedding areas we can find. Trying to keep the fields mowed. Little clover and stuff like that planted, but mostly just looking for acorns and trails and bedding areas, water sources.
Would you say that's some of the most important things? Because, you know, each year, folks, we got new hunters that come in, and, you know, young ones, old ones, some people that just get interested in the sport. And, you know, there's so many rules and regulations. Then we'll go over that here in a minute, but what would you say would be like some of the most important things whenever, say, you're scouting new land to look for?
I'd say definitely feed, bedding, and water.
Right.
At least up until the rut begins, and you know, probably first week in November. But yeah, until then, I mean, if you ain't got acorns or some kind of food source, it'd be better if you can set up kind of between a bedding area and a food source. That way, you know, you can always pattern them a lot better.
Right.
And of course, any kind of trail cameras or anything like that you can use is going to drastically improve your odds. I'd really stress not going into an area no more than you have to. Even checking your trail cameras. Put it off as long as you can. But always check your wind. If a wind stays in a certain setting most of the time, like if you got a northeast wind most of the time, or
right.
West wind or whatever, always keep that in mind when you're setting up. Always put your tree stand on the downwind side. Try to get it up as high as you can. But just keep eye on the surroundings. I mean, we got acorns You can hear them in the background now, falling every once in a while. When they go on feed patterns like that, that's about all you can do is just look for a good crop of oak or a good stand of oak trees.
Now, see, you yourself, this is the land that you personally hunt, correct?
Yes.
Now, see, myself, I do a lot of public game land hunting, and one thing I can't stress enough to you folks is every single year, North Carolina Wildlife Commission changes the rules.
Yes.
And that comes in part with their wildlife management that they have set for the state. Just like someone like Shane here manages his property privately, North Carolina has to manage their game land properties, you know. And one of the things they do, they'll switch it to like in Davie County, as soon as gun season starts, you can no longer kill does, it's buck only. And then when archery's open, it's either sex. And I know up here in western North Carolina that y'all had some rule changes this year to where, you know, normally it would go like, say, September 8th all the way to, say, November 31st, and then gun season, well, then you got black powder season, and then gun season comes in. But y'all's is kind of broke up this year, and, you know, that's just something that changed this year, correct?
Yes. And every county, well, maybe not every county, but most counties is different. I mean, we really need to stress, whatever county you live in, you need to check the regulations for that county. Because our either sex season is different than some counties.
Right.
Some's just got one either sex day during rifle season. Some's got a full week. Everything's different from county to county on a lot of them. So every year, I mean, you can't look at the Wildlife Regulations Digest this year and think it's going to be the same next year.
Right.
It's
never the same. One thing with the new hunters that, you know, you might not know, even when it's not deer season, if you're going to go into the woods, carry blaze orange. I can't stress that enough. There's, you know, some people that are not law abiding and they don't always be or do what they're supposed to do in proper property management. And there's been a lot of incidences, and here at Carolina Outdoor, we want y'all to have a great hunting year. We want you to have a safe hunting year. And one of the ways to prevent someone mistaking you or, you know, not taking a correct shot and waiting for an opportunity to see the full object as it's in the clearing is to wear this blaze orange. You cannot, I don't care if you was down in the middle of a holler somewhere 500 yards away, anybody that has, you know, decent eyesight, they're going to see that blaze orange, you know. And one thing, if you are a new hunter, that you need to do in North Carolina is get in contact with the North Carolina Wildlife Commission and look up the hunter education course, because to even buy a license, you have to have that course under your belt. Yep. It's a great course. It gives you a lot of information, just like some of what I'm giving you here today. And we're going to go into the woods today, and what are some of the things we're going to be looking at?
Well, trails a lot. I've got a few places that got real good oak timber. Going to check the trails going to and from those. Check a sign around the watering hole. I've got a couple mineral licks that I need to check, and just check a couple trail cameras and stuff. But I think we're pretty well set. Got plenty of acreage. There's like 4 different areas in here where there's really good oak timber. Right. So I always know to check those 4 every year regardless. Especially if you got a big tract of land, but there's not a lot of oak trees on it. You can pretty well know what sections you need to hunt by your timber. But then too, like I say, the bedding area. I've got one place that's already set up where I'm in between. It's a natural funnel. Right. It's like a real thick bluff in above it, and then there's a nice flat, and then below the flat it drops back off again into a big thicket and bedding area. But it just creates a real nice funnel where the deer are coming out of oak timber on both sides, and they just funnel through that flat.
And that's one thing I've noticed with hunting, that if you have a hill and it has a flat on it at all, deer love path of least resistance, but they also love the cover. So it's just like you said, you had a real thick bluff, you have a flat, and then you got a downhill angle. Deer are going to eat that up all year long. They're going to travel that. The only way a deer is going to change its travel path is, one, if you go in there and you leave your scent, and you make a bunch of noise and they see you or they blow you out, then they might switch it up a little bit. Then sometimes it doesn't affect them at all. It depends on how much pressure is on them during that season. And if there's anything that, you know, we can stress, that when you go into your woods, even if it's not hunting season, put on your scent cover. Because if you go out here and you're tromping around and you're just leaving your scent everywhere, you're smoking cigarettes, whatever it may be that you're doing as far as like scent coming off your personal body, you need to be able to cover that, because you want to disturb as less as possible as far as actual foliage around your area and your scent. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, but one thing too, a lot of people has the misconception if they go in and they do any trimming at all, understand that it's going to spook things.
Right.
Now in this flat I'm hunting, I really had a lot of undergrowth from a few years ago, since the last time it'd been cleared. But I actually went in this year, and where some large locusts and stuff like that had failed, we actually went in with a chainsaw and cut them out and made little openings through the underbrush. And the deer are really using that, because like you said, it's a path of least resistance. And I mean, yes, a deer loves thickets,
yeah,
but like you say, they're like us. I mean, if you go around through here and you see a big thicket and hey, right there's an opening, which one are you going to walk through?
The opening.
Now, I didn't make nothing big, just maybe 2 or 3 foot wide.
Right.
But you can tell that all of the deer that comes through that flat now are concentrating on them 3 trails, which is excellent for bow hunters, because you can pretty well guide your deer through closer to where you want for the shot.
How long did you, how long would you say that it took them to get used to that change in environment? Did they use it right away, or did it take them like a week to kind of check it out? Or?
Well, they started using just about right away. I mean, all of them wasn't, but even the next day we went over there and it was like deer come through just as curiosity, just to see what had been done. But then over 4 or 5 days time, then there was a large quantity of deer using those areas. And now, I mean, you can stand back and visually see, see nice trails coming through them now. So yeah, it might spook them as far as the hole goes. It might spook them for 2 or 3 days, but they'll come right back. It ain't gonna bother them.
Well, that's great information. And folks, another piece of information we're going to give you as we go in here, if you're setting up on new land, where, when, and how to set up a deer stand and make it successful. Just like with him creating a funnel and even using a natural funnel to put in place the perfect shot and the great circumstances that you need to take a deer. So y'all stay tuned and we'll be right back.
This week's Carolina Outdoor Adventures TV is brought to you by AAA Outdoors Sweet and Salty Deer Attractants, Buckbuster Scents, scents for the serious hunter.
That's a pretty amazing size track there now. I mean, yeah, he slid downhill in that mud so it spread it out to the max, but that's still a heck of a foot on a deer. When you see a track that size, you know it's a buck. That don't necessarily mean it's a big buck, but it's definitely a buck.
It was like I was telling my godson yesterday when I took him scouting, the difference, even if you don't see the dew claws, bucks spread.
Yeah.
They point out. A doe, even if it does spread, it'll still come to a point.
Yeah, and most of the time those hooves are a lot narrower.
Yeah.
The bucks will have a fatter and like you say, wider spread track.
Be more rounded at the top of it.
Yeah.
Right here's a really good example of a print for a doe. You can see right here as it's coming to a point, even though they do spread in the middle. If you want to tell which way your deer's moving, the back of it's rounded and you can see the point, but you can also look at the pressure indentation right here, because just like humans, we go from our heel to our toe, and when we kick off, all the pressure's on our toe. So this deer right here was obviously moving down this way.
Cool. Okay guys, this is one of the areas that we've been talking about. We got some good oak timber in here, white oaks, red oaks, and as you can see, there's quite a few acorns laying around. These here are water oak acorns, which are not the deer's favorite, but they will eat them really good at times. There's especially if there's not a lot of white oak acorns. But now on a ridge like this, you really don't want to look for real good trails, because chances are they're not going to be trails coming onto a ridge. They will circle around from the sides. As you can see, we got a laurel thicket here in the background, and then we got a deep holler over here that's full of brush, and they bed a lot. But they'll filter around the edges of the ridge and then just come up in different areas to feed. But if you get to looking, you can see indentions where their hooves has been, and there's busted acorns. We found quite a few where they've actually been feeding. But we'll look around here and see what we can find. Right here, son. Just always find where they've been busting acorns. Here we typically have a northwest wind, so if we set up back here, we've got a nice backdrop, and we've got some good straight trees for a climbing stand, or we've got some here with good cover if you want to put up a ladder stand. But wind is definitely a factor, and you want to make sure you get up fairly high. On a ridge top like this, you don't necessarily need to be as high as you do down in a valley, because your scents are naturally going to be higher. And plus, they ain't going to be looking up to see as much either. But we're going to look around here and see what kind of acorns we can find and where the best sign is or best setup. So stick with us and we'll see where we can find. Now, one thing I wanted to say too, Mark, is although this is a great location, and as you can see, like we were talking about a while ago, these acorn pieces of land everywhere up through here. Both squirrels and deer both have really been feeding. If you look, I mean, they're laying everywhere. But we got a ladder stand up here that we put up a few years ago, and although we have had great success out of it over time,
Right.
if you ain't careful, you can really overhunt an area. Now we may hunt here, 4 or 5 days just at different times, but you really don't want to hunt this place, right on and on and on all season long. It's okay to hunt it 5 or 6 days, and if you don't do no good, you need to move around and find it somewhere else.
Would it be all right to do it 5 or 6 days in a row, or would you need to separate days in between that?
I think it's fine as long as you pay close attention to your entrance to that stand.
Right.
You don't want to come through like where deer are going to bed, or where deer frequently use a lot.
Right.
Because you're just pushing the deer out of there and pushing them over on somebody else. So once again, check your wind. Try to come in on a downwind angle to your stand if at all possible. And I wouldn't really even try to go on the same exact trail every time. If you can, even 15 or 20 feet might make a difference in, really concentrating your scent in one area. Now, sometimes I personally feel like does don't pay near as much attention to that as bucks do.
Right.
But an old mature buck will pick up on things that another deer won't. So, I mean, try not to just constantly hunt that same area. Even if you don't move 50 or 75 yards, sometimes that can make a big difference.
One thing that I noticed, tracking deer and looking for them and stuff like that, right now we're on a real high ridge, but throughout this ridge it's flat on top. And you'll have a trail somewhere around here where it's like halfway down that's just wore slap out, and then you'll have a trail up here where it doesn't seem as it's traveled as heavy, but what it is bucks will stand above their does, and they will, like before pre-rut and stuff like that, they're going to be above them. They kind of like, in a sense, I feel like they're like, yeah, you go ahead and walk out there and let me know if it's okay or not, before they actually come out. And that has a lot to do with field hunting as well. You'll see does come out, and then about 10, 15 minutes later, here comes the big guy.
Absolutely. And another thing you got to keep in mind too is bucks ain't going to leave near as much sign as does do.
Right.
For one, of course, you got a lot more does in most areas than you do bucks. But bucks tend to kind of stay off, like you say, off to their self a little bit until the rut starts. Which brings me to another point. If you'll try to keep all your does coming in as good as you can all through bow season,
right,
the more chance you're going to have of seeing a big buck when the rut starts. because we all know where they're going to be.
So let me ask you this. So what you're saying is, if I'm hunting an area and say I have 5 does coming in there, not really that many, but I got 5. And if I turn around during like bow season or black powder right before the rut starts, if I kill them does out of there and then, you know, the rut comes in and stuff like that, I'm not going to have any, in a sense, live bait for the bucks to be interested to come into my area.
I like to try to keep as many does around as possible. A lot of people think that if they've got 10 or 12 does coming in, that they're getting too thick and they need to thin a couple out. And in my experience, that's not necessarily true. Yeah, I mean, you don't want a huge number of does versus bucks ratio, but I mean, to me, if I've got 10 or 15 does coming in,
Right.
those does ain't gonna come in heat at the same time. So the way I look at it, the more does you've got, the more chance you've got of one venturing off and a big buck getting after her and bringing her right through by you.
Well, let me ask you this, because this comes into deer management, especially if you got your own property that you're trying to maintain. You personally, would you recommend that you kill your does before they come into breeding, or would you kill them after?
If you're going to kill a doe for meat, which I don't blame anybody for doing,
Right.
but if you need some freezer meat and you want to kill a doe, yes, I think the quicker you can do it, the better. Simply because, at least, I mean, up toward the end of the rifle season, probably at least half the does that are killed have already been bred.
Right.
And like if you've got a picture of a big 10 or 12 pointer, 8 pointer, whatever the trophy may be for your area, you don't really want to kill the doe that he may have bred, do you?
No, definitely not.
So as long you need to keep that gene pool in that area. So if you harvest your does at the very first of season, then you don't stand a risk on wiping out the seed, if you want to put it that way, of your big bucks. That brings up another good point too, Mark. If you're going to be out hunting, especially if you're hunting by yourself, always make sure you've got some kind of contact with you, whether it be a cell phone, a radio, GPS.
Absolutely.
Something where somebody will know where you're at.
A lot of people that I see, even myself, if I'm hunting somewhere, you know, you're going to be camouflaged, and when you get sat down and settled in, one of people's favorite things to do, take off that orange. You know, that way some people feel like, you know, deer are colorblind, but they're really not. You know, that's a misconception as well. But they make a little roll about like this right here, and it can be pink, it can be blue, it can be highlighter orange. And actually, from where you go into the woods on game land, keep marking. Kind of like a Hansel and Gretel trail, you know. Keep marking your trail, and that way if you are by yourself and something happens, because especially up here, these are steep mountains, people, like, you want to be as safe as possible when going in the woods. Me personally, I like having someone with me, you know, but if you just say one day after work you want to get out there and you want to go, so you take off, always leave a trail marker. Because if you do that and then you don't come back that evening and you got a wife at home, or you got a really good buddy that, you know, you always call after you get done hunting, they're going to be like, where's he at? And then a lot of places that you deer hunt, you don't have phone signal. So
Absolutely.
Then they come, they find your truck. Well, if you ain't got them trail markers, they're just like, let's do a 5 mile in a circle. Like, you know, but if you have them trail markers, they can usually come right to you.
You can't be too safe.
No, never.
I had a first cousin actually get shot and killed deer hunting wearing solid blaze orange. No matter how safe you try to be, unfortunately sometimes bad accidents do happen.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
we can't stress enough, please be safe when you're out here. You've got wife, kids, brothers, sisters, and family at home waiting for you to come home. So
it's a great sport. It's great bonding with friends, family, sons, daughters, but at the end of the day, it's an activity, and we just want y'all, like he said, to be absolutely safe. And we're going to get out here and we're going to look for some more deer sign and some more things that we can bring to you as educational value, and y'all stay with us and we'll be right back. Alright folks, well that's all we got for you today. And one thing I wanted to point out before we leave, North Carolina, you can look at the bottom of the screen right here. It's the North Carolina Education Hunter Safety course that is required by everyone to be able to get a hunting license. And is there anything you can think of, Shane?
Well, just like we was talking earlier, you know, always make sure to check your wildlife digest. because any county you're in, you're going to have different regulations for game land than you do on private land. So just always make sure you know what the regulations are for the property you're hunting and county you're hunting.
All right, folks. Well, this is Mark Davis and Shane Cannon with Carolina Outdoor Adventures TV, and we'll see you again in the great outdoors.
Be safe and happy hunting.